Doctor Who. 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 Doctor Who.
Patch me through to the doctor. Now!
Welcome to Talking Pop Culture with Jake D. Thank you for stopping by the channel and watching the video. So Doctor Who transitioned to having the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker. And in this continuing series of videos, I am analyzing each and every episode of the Jodie Whittaker era. Today, we're going to be talking about the Ghost Monument. But before we get to that, please remember to like the video, share it with your friends on social media, comment on the video below, and do consider subscribing to the channel if it's your first time here, because that's a great way to help small creators like myself on YouTube compete against the BBCs and CBSs of the world. And now, on to the video. The Ghost Monument picks up right where the last episode, The Woman Who Fell to Earth, left off. Namely, with the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker and her companions, the fam, floating in space. Let's take a look at how it opens up here. Now, I know some of you are looking at that and saying, well, what's your problem, Jake? Why is this an issue? Well, for one thing, this is supposed to be a science fiction show. The key piece to that statement being science. So, we're treated to this scene where it kind of looks like the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker is falling and her hair is waving in the breeze. Except, space is a vacuum. There is no breeze. And there's nothing that's going to be blowing her around like that. She didn't fall, she was instantly teleported, so there's certainly no effect on gravity changing how she was that would have caused her hair to fly up like that. Okay, maybe that's a minor complaint, but I don't like it. It's not science-y, okay? And one of the things that used to be really great about Doctor Who was the fact that it did have a pretty firm rooting in science. Let's take a look at a scene just from the previous season featuring Peter Capaldi, who is an amazing doctor, dealing with the vacuum of space and one of his companions' imminent exposure to it.
You're about to be exposed to the vacuum of space.
Oh, God!
So don't hold your breath.
Oh, my lungs will explode.
You were listening. Well done.
And that's the sort of thing we're talking about when we say that you need to have the science in the science fiction. Now, to be fair, Jodie didn't have an opportunity to prep the fam for what was going on, so okay, you know, I can live with that. However, let's observe what happened to Bill when she was exposed to the vacuum of space. Goodness, she appears to be experiencing some pretty cold temperatures, some pretty immediate disorientation, but it doesn't stop there. Keep watching. Yes, she rapidly proceeds to freeze, which is a far more accurate representation of what would happen to somebody when they are exposed to the vacuum of space. And let's keep in mind, Bill's suit even had a force field to try to help keep the air in, and as Capaldi told her during this wonderful episode of Season 10, Oxygen, it was not going to be powerful enough to protect her against the true vacuum that is actual, proper space. In complete contrast to this, we get this opening scene from the first female doctor played by Jodie Whittaker, in which her and the companions are all hanging out in space with apparently zero ill effects happening to them. And it's just this lack of attention to the science behind this science fiction program that really begins to grate on the nerves of fans of this once venerable and amazing science fiction franchise.
Why are we not in space now?
I scooped you.
Ah, yes, the Deus Ex Machina in the form of the female spaceship pilot, who was very intentionally framed to appear very symbolically as an angel using these seats behind her. That was not lost on me. It should not have been lost on you because it was quite intentional. I will give them this. If they're going to pull out a Deus Ex Machina, they may as well symbolize her as an angel. Now, oddly enough, the Doctor and Yaz were scooped up by a completely different racer as opposed to the one that grabbed Graham, which is just very odd, but okay. Let's see how the Doctor deals with her new situation.
They'll be writing operas about our pointlessness if we don't take drastic action right now. We're about to die. Oh, sorry, Az, I forgot you were there. All gonna be fine.
You know, I'm sorry, but the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, just does not inspire confidence in this scene. And not only that, but to have simply forgotten about her companion even having been there, but just not the Doctor, not at all. Let's take a look again at when Peter Capaldi was challenged in Season 10, Episode 5, Oxygen.
Who are you?
I'm the Doctor. I will do everything in my power to save all your lives, and when I do, you will spend the rest of them wondering who I was.
Calm and in charge. That is a Doctor who projects confidence and authority. A far cry from what we've seen from the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker. So we do finally get down to the planet on which the Ghost Monument is going to take place, and we've got Ryan and Graham down there with the other pilot, and the ship that the Doctor was bringing down is crashing, and it's coming in right on top of them, which is a rather impressive coincidence considering the size of a planet and the differences in the times that they arrived at it. But, okay, I mean, I guess we work with that. You got to have some things that just sort of tie together unrealistically. That's not as huge an issue as some. But as the ship is crashing directly towards them, here's what Graham and Ryan do.
About to crash land.
Don't just stand there, run!
Now, I grant you, I am not a spaceship pilot, nor am I particularly well skilled at avoiding crashing spaceships. However, when something is coming directly at you, and you've got time to react, and it's coming straight at you, what's going to be the best direction to run? Turn around and keep going in the direct opposite direction of the thing that's coming straight at you in a straight line, or might it be a good idea to go 90 degrees opposite the direction of the crashing spaceship? I mean, again, forgive me, but it just sure seems that you're going to be a little bit safer if instead of sprinting along the path of the crashing object, you instead got out of the path. But, you know, I mean, I guess that doesn't create as much drama.
Can't remember who I borrowed them off now. It was either Audrey Hepburn or Pythagoras.
Hey, Pythagoras never wore shades.
Funny, right? The Doctor gives Graham her spare shades and says they came from either Audrey Hepburn or Pythagoras. They certainly look a little more Audrey Hepburn to me. However, lazy writing. It's like the writers completely forgot what happened in the previous episode, or the fact that the Doctor doesn't even have the TARDIS. Look, the Doctor just put on this clothing after getting rid of Capaldi's trashed and torn up and burned apart clothing, and has, again, no access to the TARDIS. The Doctor didn't have shades. We know the Doctor didn't have shades because, well, Capaldi's shades, if he had them, were the sonic sunglasses. And that's absolutely not what the Doctor has given to Graham here. This is just an example of how the writing in this show is just so bad now. There was just a desire to add a gag without any kind of thought whatsoever as to the plausibility of it. Example after example like this exists under Chris Chibnall, and it's just poor writing and lazy script work.
And judging by what you just told us, very little hope of survival. I need all the information I can get, including, but not limited to, what this ghost monument actually looks like when it appears.
And this here is exactly why we call the first female doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, whom we will lovingly call Dr. Karen, what we call her. Because there's this desperation in what she's doing here, and there's you get almost a sense of fear and just a frenetic kind of all over the place energy out of this performance, which is really a far cry from what we've seen in past doctors when they are in very, very tight situations. Let's take another look at an example of what I would consider the Doctor done right from Peter Capaldi.
Well, I've got no TARDIS, no Sonic, about 10 minutes oxygen left. And now I'm blind. Can you imagine how unbearable I'm going to be when I pull this off?
I mean, I don't know about you, but that sounds like a doctor who intends to win. The first female doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, gives us a similar speech. However, it's nowhere nearly so confidence-inducing. Let's take a look.
Yes, I promise. I will keep you alive and I will get you back home. I'm really good in a tight spot. At least I have been historically. I'm sure I still am.
You know, I suppose it is true the Doctor has been historically. However, backing off of the statement like that, it doesn't inspire the confidence that the companions need to feel that they are indeed going to be safe. But Chibnall did think that it might be a good idea to try to tie the first female doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, whom we will lovingly call Dr. Karen, back to the historical eras of the Doctor, and gave us this little memberberry.
See this? Nice move. Thanks. Venusian Aikido.
You remember John Pertwee? I remember John Pertwee. Karen, you are no John Pertwee. Okay, all right. So we get our little John Pertwee memberberry because Venusian Aikido. And so then the group moves on to a boat to transverse across a large lake or sea or something to that effect. And then we get really our first introduction to CW Doctor Who here, where the group is talking about feelings in a boat this time.
Don't ever take them for granted.
God, you all look shattered.
Don't get me wrong, it's not that there were never emotional moments in Doctor Who previously, it's just that this is just very CW soap opera-y writing, which actually makes sense because that's who we have writing Doctor Who now. It was a bunch of writers that Chibnall's brought in from daytime soaps, and that's why we're getting scenes like this rather than this very, very emotional scene that we once again saw from the great Peter Capaldi.
You always do this.
Do what?
Make jokes to distract me from whatever's about to kill us.
What else are jokes for?
You know, dealing with feelings in and of itself is not a foreign thing to Doctor Who, but when you compare how it was handled previously to what we get with the Chibnall crew, I mean, to me, there's just no comparison. That moment from Capaldi is brilliance, whereas what we get from Jodie and the folks while they're in the boat is, I mean, it's soap opera quality shtick, and I suppose that shouldn't surprise us. So we get a first, perhaps hint of danger and confrontation from this episode coming up, where these drone robots are going after Jodie and the fam. And, let's see how Jodie handles this.
Okay, now that was impressive.
Dealing with feelings in and of itself is not a foreign thing to Doctor Who, but when you compare how it was handled previously to what we get with the Chibnall crew, I mean, to me, there's just no comparison. That moment from Capaldi is brilliance, whereas what we get from Jodie and the folks while they're in the boat is, I mean, it's soap opera quality shtick, and I suppose that shouldn't surprise us. So we get a first, perhaps hint of danger and confrontation from this episode coming up, where these drone robots are going after Jodie and the fam, and let's see how Jodie handles this.
Are you out of your mind?
Yes, completely, but that's not a recent thing. Listen, all we've got left is a good death. This is the moment you've been waiting for since the day you were born. Don't screw it up now.
Now, there's a powerful difference on how to get your companions prepped up to deal with what is almost certainly going to be your deaths. Of course, it doesn't work out that way because the Doctor's too clever to let it happen and go down such that everybody dies, but hey! Just once again, a 180-degree difference between how they're dealing with the threats. And it doesn't get more stark than that in many, many, many ways. So, okay, the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, does indeed manage to take out the robot threats. And then they're running around in tunnels, and they're talking about their feelings in tunnels, and they're discovering bad things in tunnels, which is a surprisingly long portion of the episode. And, of course, the bad guys find a way to force them out to the surface, where the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, has to deal with evil floating bandages who give us our first mention of the true, final, and ultimate death of the show.
We see deeper though, further back, the timeless child.
What did you just say?
She doesn't know.
If only I knew then what I do now, I would have known how absolutely frightening that scene truly, truly was. Not because the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, whom we will lovingly refer to as Dr. Karen, seemed to be in danger from the flying bandages. No, because it talked about the timeless child, which of course was Chris Chibnall's master plan when he took over as the showrunner of Doctor Who and hired the soap opera writers that gave us this trash that we've been seeing on our screens for the past 3 years. Well, they take out the bandages by lighting the auto-lighting cigar and lying on the ground while the acetylene in the air burned them up. Shortly thereafter, Jodie, the fam, and the crew arrive at the end of the race, whereby the two racers demand that they be recognized as equal winners.
An equal split.
No. Get us off this rock.
Fine.
Jodie and the fam are left, presumably abandoned, on the planet of desolation. But, of course, they were at the location of the titular ghost monument, which we learned earlier, of course, was the TARDIS. So, unsurprisingly, it does begin to phase in, and we get this little snippet from the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker.
Come on, please. Give us this.
And after saying, "Come to daddy," I mean, "Come to mommy," the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, is reunited with the TARDIS, which of course has a new interior that, well, I don't like it. I don't know what else to say. I don't like it. It is awful in appearance. I can at least understand fans of the series feeling that the interior of the new TARDIS is acceptable, because that's really, it's an aesthetic type thing, and me not liking that isn't particularly problematic as far as the show itself goes, perhaps with the exception of not having enough round things in it. But the fam and first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, do finally enter after they've found the TARDIS and are able to effect their escape from desolation. Back a few years later, how do I feel about the Ghost Monument? Well, the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, did not give us a particularly compelling performance. She did give us, I would say, one decent Doctor moment, which, of course, was finding an innovative way to shut down the Sentry robots that were pursuing them, although she did so while in the process of denigrating her male companions and having to be told by the other male companion that she was incredible. So, rating for the show. When comparing this to past Doctor Who, and in particular the episode that I've used sort of in contrast to what we got from the Ghost Monument, which I would say was a good episode from the Capaldi era. It had some of its issues within it, but overall it was a good episode. So I'm going to have to roll with a 5 out of 10 for the Ghost Monument, and I think that's being generous. One thing you can say about it is it looked good. Certainly not going to knock that. The appearance was solid. I didn't mind the score in this episode, but what we got out of Ghost Monument was very much a preview of things to come throughout the rest of Jodie's tenure. We got a lot of experience of characters sitting around talking about feelings. We had a number of instances of the men being sidelined, told they were no good, or being used specifically to prop up the first female Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker. And of course, we did get our first mention of the Timeless Child, which was the ultimate destruction of the show. So you take all those things into consideration. I really think I'm being rather generous by giving this particular episode a 5 out of 10. And the only thing saving it was that technically it was decent overall. And at a very, very high level, the story wasn't horrible, but the execution and the dialogue and the posturing were just so not Doctor Who. This is like a CW show, and it feels very much like a teenage angst and feelings show, which is just not what Doctor Who is, nor what it was meant to be. Well, by golly, you've stuck around this long. I'm gonna have to say, hey, thank you for watching the video. Please do consider giving it a thumbs up by liking it down below. Leave me a comment to let me know your thoughts on my reaction to the Ghost Monument. Consider sharing it on social media. And if you've just come about the channel for the first time, please do consider subscribing, as that's one of the best ways to help a newer creator like myself here on YouTube grow and reach a wider audience, and it helps us compete with the BBCs and CBSs of the world. Once again, thank you, and I'll catch you on the next video.